Let's talk about old school Dungeons and Dragons combat. Let's start with the wizard. What's a good early weapon to choose for any wizard? Ranged, darts, or daggers. And you might want to get some caltrops at the same time. What are they? Little spikes you throw on the ground. People have a hard time getting around them. They could step on them, take damage. What are you looking to do in combat, wizard? You're looking to make space between you and your enemies. You don't want to be up close with a staff swinging. You'll have low hit points and pretty much no armor. So you want range. You want a little bit of range between you, where you can throw your darts or throw your daggers. And by picking a dagger or dart as your weapon of choice, you can have multiple of those easy. You can carry those on you. They're small weapons. They don't take up a lot of space. They're not going to weigh you down in any extreme way. So you have multitudes of those. Always keep maybe a dagger on you for safety, just in case something gets near you. And you want those caltrops. Why? You're going to drop those in front of you. At least visually between you and the enemy. So even if they make their way up to you, they'll have to go around them to get to you, if not step through them and possibly take damage, hurting them, slowing them down, who knows what, right? Well, that's important. You might want a spell like Magic Missile early in the game. Something where you could do some damage. You can always advance your magic later for other areas of the game, but make sure you're getting something in the vein of Magic Missile. Very common spell for a wizard to start with, but you should. You'll realize it's quite useful. It upgrades over time, doing a lot more damage. So as you're meeting stronger enemies, this spell improves with your growth. Very important. And we're talking about combat. There's other spells you could possibly take, but they can be iffy. Sleep, that's range. How many are you going to get? How consistent is that? At least Magic Missile is something you don't have to worry about a saving throw. You're just going to hit most of the time right there. The games vary on these rules, but just check it out. Especially talking about AD&D. Now, that's pretty simple and straightforward. What else could you do with the wizard in combat? Well, you could do a thing called cold shots, detailed attacks in the game. You know what you could do if the enemies are quite strong? Well, you might have a hard time just hitting them, throwing the dart or dagger anyway. It's not like your attack is that great. So you might have to roll really high. In cases like that, you might want to go for one of these cold shots. Maybe pin an enemy down or against a tree with a dart or dagger. Sticks through their clothing, sticks them up against a tree. Suddenly, your warrior fighting that creature has an easier time hitting them. Right? Let's go over to the thief. What about the thief? Well, the thief is somewhat in the same vein as wanting to go to range. Maybe make sure they have a bow or something in that vein. Caltrops works just as well in that situation. But you can bring some other tricky things. You can bring a little pouch of dust or powder to throw into the faces of anything coming at you, trying to blind, trying to create sort of a fog between you and them. So you can use your stealth to move away if they do move up on you. So range again. But range is going to be a little bit better for the thief. They can pick a bow in most circumstances, and they should. Right? Again, the caltrops, maybe some trickery with some dust or powder or something in that vein could be quite helpful. There is no doubt. It's a good overall weapon. Just about any character can choose. The wizard is more limited. But a good weapon is a club. I'll tell you guys all a secret with old school. What's a club? Anything that can be considered a club. So if you run out of weapons, or you got locked up or stuff taken from you, but you can either get to something that could be a club, or in AD&D it's a weapon proficiency, like a skill. That's how you choose what weapons you can use to get bonuses or to go against negatives. you might want to pick a club for sure. Because a club can be anything. Like just about anything that could be considered a club. A stick on the ground. Suddenly you have a weapon you're proficient with that will do a fair amount of damage. Something in the vein of a staff, but at least you're proficient with it and you're not going to face minuses in combat using that. It's a good makeshift situation, right? Again, a leg off a chair could be a club. Something laying on the ground like a long stick can be a club, right? So just keep that in mind. Now, what about the thief? Is that all they can do is just do this powder thing or do range? Well, I'd say they could be stealthy with backstab, but you want to make sure enemies are cut down. You want to do that at not right away in the fight when there's too many enemies. You can move in too close, be spotted, get caught. The whole fight could end for you right there, right? You want to be very careful when you pick targets. Ones that are more isolated. Or one of your warriors is taken down, maybe 2 of the 4 that they're fighting. You walk up, backstab one of them. If you can get to a leader, go for a leader. But be careful. Like any leader of, say, a group of monsters. Now, combat is something for the most part early on you should be avoiding. But if you're going to get stuck in combat, this is some stuff you want to do. Rangers, well, they can move up into battle, right? Fighters, they can move up into battle. Oh, so can paladins, right? They can move up into battle. So can clerics. But clerics you want to be careful with. The more warriors you have, the more options you can have with clerics. Make sure they're not getting surrounded. Make sure fighters are taking on enemies that might surround them. So, if you're in combat and you got 2 warriors and a cleric, the warriors should be attempting to taunt the enemies to mostly come at them and less at the cleric. It doesn't mean the cleric can't handle combat, but they have healing options. And you want to make sure your healer isn't going to so quickly, easily go down. Right? Also, your range. Go back to the wizard and thief. Pay attention more to the clerics than the warriors. Right? If you notice your cleric getting beat down, time to start aiming your ranged attack at the enemies that are on the cleric. That's strategy. That's tactical to keep your healer alive. Oh, it's even you would choose the paladin if they have lay hands for healing over the warrior. If the paladin is getting heat the same as the warrior, aim at the enemies on the paladin. You want to keep anyone with any healing abilities up and still going. That's going to be important. So make sure that's a necessary thing. Rangers, they can definitely go to range. They don't need to worry so much about caltrops. They can always drop their bow and pull their swords. But at the end of the day, they can pretty much be treated like warriors in combat. Effectively, if you want to go 2 weapons, don't try to go with extended weapons that are like the same. The rules make it hard for that. Having 2 long swords, cling, 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 as you're trying to swing around. Not everything is as clean as you want it to be, right? So the game is definitely going to push against that type of dual wielding. You want to go with a shorter weapon and a longer weapon, right? Now, personally, I would say when it comes to long swords, if you're going to pick a long sword, trade it in, take the bastard sword. Why? Why is a bastard sword going to be a better choice than a long sword? Well, just say you're a ranger with the short weapon and the long sword. The bastard sword has a little secret, has a longer handle. So you can drop the dagger, grab it with 2 hands, and now you're doing more damage. Very important. I think the bastard sword overall is more effective than the long sword. But if you're looking to squeeze out any bonuses, old school is not like it's not the Munchkin game some people would call WotC. So you might get an elven character. They get a bonus with a long sword. They don't get the same bonus with the bastard sword. And minor bonuses in old school D&D can be quite effective. You'll care about them when you're a point off, right? And they make the difference of getting you over the line for the hit. And that can happen more often than you would ever appreciate. So bonuses in old school are quite effective. That's why they're tight, because they are effective. They do work more than you would imagine. Not in every case, but after rolling for so long in different fights, going through the system, you'll find many moments where those numbers make a difference. So definitely pay attention. Definitely pay attention. Warriors want to make sure that they're taunting and drawing enemies to them, especially early. If there's not much of a chance for the wizard or the thief to make distance between them and the enemies, warriors, you move up. You create situations of taunting and moving towards enemies to give your wizard and your thief time. You want to do everything you can. Fight by a tree, fight in a doorway. Why would you go around objects trying to fight around them? It's trying to make it harder for the enemy to surround you. That's important. If you're right by a tree, suddenly you can't just be surrounded. You got a tree as an object in one place. That's one less enemy you got to deal with that might try to surround you. At a doorway, you can control combat. They can't surround you, and now you can cut the enemies off from getting to the wizard or the thief so easily. Combat's pretty straightforward. It is pretty straightforward when you really get down to it. There's some tricks you can do. Some, I like an old school trick of having a long chain on you. Swing it around, one with a lot of reach. One that's going to delay the enemy getting right at you right away. They're charging in to surround you. You start swinging that chain around, it's going to cause a delay. Why can that be important? Well, now your range can shoot at these enemies without much danger towards you. When your enemies are surrounding you, and the thief or the wizard is aiming their range options, their darts, their daggers, their bow shots at the enemies, there is a chance they can hit you. When you can keep them away from just being right on you, better chance the DM will ease up, because there's no specific rules that will say if they're a distance out, there's no danger. Most DMs will drop the danger at that point. That swinging around can get you maybe an extra round before you're fully surrounded and being attacked, which gives, again, those range options more time. More time, right? Very important. You can do a lot of little things. You can, again, it's like that powder thing. You can throw things down. You can do things to occupy the minds of the monsters. You gotta hope you have a good DM that doesn't run everything like a machine game. Right? So they should be able to react to little triggers. Maybe you're yelling, "What's that over there?" Can little things work? To manipulate, to slow down the enemy. Play on their stupidity. Well, that's part of being creative in roleplay. So consider those things your option whenever. Right? Consider little manipulations. A good dungeon master will let them, at least the attempt, have a chance at being successful. If you're in the dark, tell the DM you're listening. Maybe you're looking for shapes in the darkness, but you're listening to noise. It's anything you could say that might either cut down on possible minuses you would be given to your attack, so you can't see your enemy straight out. Just say you're a human character. Some races can see at night. They can at least see heat visions. Not perfect vision, but they can see heat visions. That can be effective for them at night, because then they can see an enemy clearly. They can swing. They can even be more of a threat at night towards some enemies that don't have that type of vision option. So at night, things can change for certain types, like an elven character. But for a human character, you might find the torch going out. Oh, you feel panic. Don't panic. Noise, vibration, all that can be your friend and something to pitch at the DM to cut down on some of the minuses. And so you don't feel like you're just swinging blindly. At least when you swing, the DM is going to give you an opportunity to hit targets. Right? And you want to make sure that your fellow party members are not just running around. Tell them let's all get chaotic and run everywhere. Guys, calm down. Let's listen for the enemies. Right? Very important. There's some other things you can do. Pass possibilities, like if you're in the darkness, don't be afraid on either side of you to throw down some caltrops. Make it hard for your enemies to even get up on you, right? Remember, the caltrops are going to be an important thing. I would advise any party, especially early on, to try to get some of those for the range, but also for moments like that, right? It's good to have. It's good to have. Just saying, it can be effective. Combat is simplistic in many ways. It's about avoiding things, paying attention to your enemy sometimes, learning about the enemy. I can tell you how to fight, but it's how to fight against every enemy. There's a lot of detail to that. There's a lot of nuance. Some enemies will give it away that they're going to do something, right? Pay attention to what your DM says. Oh, the dragon is backing up. Oh, okay, that could be breath weapon coming. Jump behind the rock, jump behind cover. Do whatever you can to cut down effectiveness of that breath weapon, maybe even to avoid damage altogether. What about poison? Well, in combat, that can be effective. It can knock you out, put you to sleep, smoke, whatever. My advice, get something like a bandana for every character. Some form of cloth coverage. Thick, whatever, so it delays poison, delays taking it in. So when you can see it, you can make some space between you and this threat, even if it's coming straight at you. Make sure to do that. Soak with water, drink, spit out anything you might have taken in. It can backtrack and make it that the DM will not cause you to go through whatever the poison was going to do. Make you lose, hit points, make you suffer, or make you pass out. But you need to do little things to be convincing to the Dungeon Master that, hey, this is my way of avoiding it, wear the thing, do the whatever. Because you never know what kind of enemy you're coming up on. So always be ready. That listen to noise and vibration thing, don't panic. You might run into enemies where looking right at them could be harmful, could hurt you. So be willing to look at other parts of the body, maybe not straight at the eyes. Or again, calm down when your vision is gone and start considering, I listen for noise and vibrations. DMs don't make the game impossible. So they'll actually let you attempt to swing and actually hit an enemy under those circumstances. Be confident that that's a thing, so you mentally don't panic. You go into strategy and tactics. Remember, that can be good against an invisible enemy too. And you can run into those. Or like I said with the poison, it could be mushrooms, whatever you're facing. Another thing you can do is be tactical in paying attention to your enemy. Maybe they're a group of goblins with some form of leadership. Yep, take the leader out. Aim at the leader. Be conscious of what you're seeing. And then aim towards that. Maybe your range can give that some focus. That can be very important. You see a leader, focus on the leader. And warriors, sometimes you're not directly in melee right away. So when you see that warrior, it doesn't take much to pick the dagger up yourself out of your side, throw it at the leader. You know what I mean? Like, just take that off your belt. I mean, that's not going to be the weapon you use for up close melee most of the time, or close quarters combat. But you can start there. You might have that extra round. Use it effectively. Taunt and throw. Oh, and the caltrops, or any type of object that would get in the way of somebody moving directly at you, is a good way of you backing away from enemies without just getting backstabbed so easily. You're going to back up, throw caltrops down. Hey, if you can slam a shield in the ground, right, that makes them have to move around it, that's a delay moment. And that delay might be effective for you. Remember, this game is old school. It's not all directly raw in the book. It is being creative and then seeing how your Dungeon Master reacts. So using common sense can be quite helpful. Slamming that shield down between you and your enemy and moving back means they got to move around it. That delay might give you an opportunity to run away without just getting stabbed from behind. Here's another good trick. Very useful one where you don't need anything other than yourself to make it effective for you. Say you're down to one enemy, right? For example, you kill the other goblins, but hey, you don't know if you're going down. Don't be afraid to spit in the eyes of your enemy and blind them. You can do that usually without losing your attack. Like, I'm getting ready to swing my sword, but I'm going to spit in his face while I swing. Spit in his eyes. Try to blind him. Try to blind the goblin. Right? You could even say that as he's attacking me. Well, I'm not trying to break the game rules. But can I try to spit in his eyes while he swings his mace at me? Common sense is your friend in old school Dungeons and Dragons. And players, you want to use that to try to sort of push back against what's going on. Be convincing to a DM. What you hope is you have a creative person running the game and not someone stuck in a book running the game raw completely. Someone who is open-minded to common sense techniques that will help you, effectively help you, in ways that can save you. Blinding the goblin means it should be harder for him to hit you, period, or even see you, right? So now what can you do after you spit in the eyes of a goblin, for example? Right? Don't be afraid. Never be afraid to do things that will seem a little out there. Common sense can be your best friend. And outside of what I tell you, you're trying to figure things out as you go. That's part of the game. Pay attention to your enemies, see what they're doing, and outside of just game rules, what does your common sense tell you that maybe you can do that might convince a DM? Because you'll think, well, there's nothing in the rules that says I can do that. But that's a great thing about old school. Don't think that way as a player. Don't think that way. Just understand everything's not written out on purpose. So when you see something, you can just pitch something that makes sense to you. It's okay, even if it's not written out exactly like that. It's part of playing these games old school wise anyway, especially with D&D. A lot of games out there can be very exact on what you can do. Some games will actually tell you what I'm telling you that are not Dungeons and Dragons. Do that in those games. They'll describe it to you to do exactly that. D&D is not always clear, the old school I mean, and that's what we're talking about in this video. I hope these ideas, this way of thinking, helps you deal with combat in old school Dungeons and Dragons. When you're playing with common sense, mixed with strategy, being tactical, making space, understanding how things work, it helps. The text doesn't always just spell it out for you. A lot of the game is learning, so what I'm telling you could save you a lot of time. If you're new to the old school, well, here, I'll save you from tripping and falling on your face if you check out this video. Okay, I love you. Talk to you soon.